And welcome to the GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Dave Ross alongside Geoff Schwartz once again. Geoff, great to be with you here as we start to get into the meat and potatoes here of post-draft, getting into camps, and really starting to formulate what your rosters start to look like. I did want to get to some of this big offseason news that we have this week. Of course, it was presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly when you choose Smirnoff. And that news came right out of New Orleans, Geoff, in that all of a sudden, Derek Carr, we knew pre-draft, had a shoulder issue. It's kind of kept under wraps. Then all of a sudden, not only is he not going to be there this year, he's retired from the NFL after 11 seasons, of course, with the Raiders in Oakland and Las Vegas, and now New Orleans. Were you shocked by that news that, he's injured. We knew that, but no, Derek Carr said, I'm done. I'm not going to try to get this shoulder right. And now he's out of the NFL.
I think shocked is probably the wrong word, but a little surprised. But I think when you pull back a little bit and think about the decision he had to make, it makes a little bit of practical sense, right? So a couple of things as we're learning about this decision, right? One is that the money, okay? So we're talking about the money in the situation. He's made over his career like $200 million. So he's very set for life. And he had a roster bonus, just to say, which the Saints decided to pay out here. And then when you have a signing bonus in any contract, a big signing bonus, you get it right away. And then it's prorated throughout the life of the contract to help the team on the salary cap, Dave. And what the team does is they say, if you retire early, you have to pay back a portion of your signing bonus to pay on what's on the salary cap for that. So when he retired, the Saints waived that and said, okay, look, we're not going to claw anything back. You get your roster bonus. We save $30 million and you retire. And people have said, and I get it. Hey, why didn't Derek Carr just have the surgery and make his money? I think we're finding out two things here. One, I know personally firsthand, which is that surgery plus daily rehab is a freaking grind, buddy. Every single day in the facility, rehabbing for hours on end, going to meetings, watching film, and not playing at all. It's very difficult. And at a certain point in your career, like Carr is at right now, he said, you know what? I'm not doing it. It's not worth $30 million to me. I made enough money. I don't want to be in the facility every day. The surgery, they said, at least according to what he said, was that it wasn't 100% certain it was going to work. So to put that all together and then say, hey, man, I'm going to be in the facility every day, away from my family while I'm hurt. And I might not even be 100%. So that's from his side, okay? Now, from the Saints side, pretty interesting. Jeff Duncan, who covers the Saints, tweeted this out. He said, my biggest takeaway from the Derek Carr retirement, essentially, is that he really did not want to be New Orleans anymore. At least not the role of transition quarterback. Your starting quarterback and team leader can't be held hostage. So it sounds like this was maybe mutual as well. That Carr wanted to get out of New Orleans and sort of retire. And when players decide they want to retire, they should retire. Like that's a good time to do it. It's hard to stick around when you don't love what you're doing. And the Saints also sounded like with the shoulder injury, they were moving on from him as well. It seems like it ended up being a good situation for both parties involved. Because if Carr comes back to try to play and is miserable, do you really want that in your locker room? I don't think you do.
Great point. And again, we know how hard it is to step away from the job and the game of football that you guys as players have loved your whole life to finally say this is it. But that's interesting information there that maybe it was more mutual than just the shoulder. And maybe Derek was looking to get out of New Orleans. And now, as you mentioned, shutting it down for good. If you knew that going in for the Saints into the draft, which they had to have an inkling that the shoulder really was an issue, or there could be some sort of separation from Derek Carr. And now you get Tyler Shuck, and that becomes what looks like your QB1. We don't know how it's going to work out. But again, when you only have Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener in that quarterback room, does this set it up for Tyler Shuck to be QB1 on day one? Because I know people are already saying, man, they could be up there for worst team in the NFL this year. You could, look at Arch Manning next year and the Manning name in New Orleans and all those tentacles there. But I don't know that you'd get Tyler Shuck early in the draft if you didn't think he's got the potential to be your future starting quarterback.
I think that's exactly why they drafted him. It sounds like that they'll come in and play right as an older quarterback. You'd imagine there's some maturity there to come in and play right now. And look, there's not a long history of second round quarterbacks, at least recently, having success. But Derek Carr did. Jalen Hurts has, right? Drew Brees, obviously, New Orleans did as well. He wasn't drafted by them, but he was drafted by the Chargers. But it's high second round pick. Like we've seen success happen in New Orleans with the second round quarterback. So I think that's certainly their idea. I want to touch on one thing related to Shuck though. So they mentioned that Derek Carr didn't want to be a mentor, essentially by the tweet, transition quarterback.
Right.
And I want to make this because I think people look at that as a negative. You don't want to mentor someone. And a lot of times we hear stories the opposite, right? Where a player didn't mentor. And I had that. Certainly Jordan Gross was my mentor when I got here, but it also wasn't I wasn't his direct competition. Like a lot of times you can be a mentor of a young player. Like I'm not his competition. Other wide receivers are not someone's competition. Like quarterback is 1 for 1. Like your direct competition is the guy you're supposed to mentor, right? And I get why players don't want to do that. Because Derek Carr's job ultimately is to win football games for the Saints, not to get Tyler Shuck ready to play football. Now, along the way, if it happens, certainly great. That's awesome. But that's not the quarterback's job. The left tackle, Jordan Gross, can mentor me. 7th round pick playing right guard. Like I'm not a competition at all to him. So I think it's very important to understand that quarterback mentoring quarterback is, I think, actually rarer than we think. There's a lot of stories about it not really being the case. Of course, there's some like Alex Smith who even says he didn't mentor Patrick Mahomes in any special way. He just wasn't a butthole to him, which I think is a big part of this, right? Like you can be a quote unquote mentor by just being nice to the young kid, helping him along. There is a difference between bringing the kid along just personally, going out of your way to help him, or just answering questions, right? Like, and I think that Derek Carr just didn't want to do that at the point of his career. I don't want to be a mentor. And that's totally normal. That's totally fine. So, but now you have a quarterback room with Shuck and Rattler. It's a very inexperienced room, and there's no veteran right now to help Tyler Shuck learn. I think it is important to have veterans in that room. So I wonder if they go seek a veteran now just to be a backup, just to have someone in the room to say, hey, man, this is how we do things in the NFL. Because right now you have, I'm going to pull it up. It's all on experience. I mean, Spencer Rattler's played a little bit, but not well, and not a lot of experience. It's Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener. They're going to have to find a veteran to add to that quarterback room.
Yeah, all three of those guys still need tutoring and mentoring in the NFL level here if they're going to be making it somewhere down the road. And I'm with you that idea that it makes you a bad guy if you don't want to mentor. Obviously, potentially your replacement. Kurt Warner didn't want to mentor Eli Manning. He went on to Arizona, had a great second part of his career. Ben Roethlisberger didn't want to mentor Joshua Dobbs when he got drafted out of Tennessee. Certainly the most famous one might be Brett Favre didn't want to mentor Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers then didn't want to mentor Jordan Love. I mean, this is competition. It's your job until the organization says it's not. So I'm with you, man. I don't think it's up to the quarterback that says I've got to mentor him. That's part of my job description. No, I want to hold on to the position I currently have, and you are the competition in that quarterback room. So interesting to see there, but New Orleans really inexperienced right now in that QB room. The Cowboys picked up, speaking of mentoring, I wonder if George Pickens is that type of guy that can take being mentored. It didn't work out in Pittsburgh very well. So he gets moved to Dallas here. And I think now under CeeDee Lamb as the clear number one, Pickens now as a number 2. What do you make of that move by Dallas? I think on paper you go, wow, that's really a talented wide receiving core, really helps it out a lot. But again, you got to be coachable. Is that the concern, that if he couldn't be coachable in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin, can he really work with Brian Schottenheimer year number 1?
Well, I want to hear your Cowboy fan take on this first. Go Cowboy fan first, and I'll fill in the rest. I want to hear your take on this.
Cowboy fan, I love it. I knew that this was a need. You looked at the Cowboys at 12, and you thought they might go wide receiver when they didn't. Obviously, Jerry had this already brewing post-draft to go get a big-time playmaker in George Pickens. I don't think anybody denies that he can go make plays. I think what you wonder about is you see the plays that he takes off, and he's not blocking downfield, and all those little things that you guys as players know that maybe median fans don't. That stuff gets cleaned up, Geoff. Then I love the move from a player impact perspective, but he's got to be a willing participant on plays where his number is not called. If they get that figured out, I think the Cowboys have a real chance to make this trade look really good down the road.
So, Dave, to me, the question about whether this trade works or not is if they give him a long-term contract, because that I think you get into the concerns, right? Where has he done enough in his career, and do you trust him to give him all that money? Because if you trade it for him, he's going to be paid soon, right? That's the purpose of this trade, I would imagine. You trade it and you pay him at some point. And are you going to get, the mental clearness from him, right? Like just sort of a calmness of the mind.
Right.
And it's not that you have to be all the time like that, but you know, Pittsburgh has always shown over the years to do really well with personalities, right? And if Pittsburgh bails on you, is that a good sign?
Mm.
So I am concerned about that from the Cowboys. I think just talent wise, this makes the team that much better. I mean, it's a great addition just talent wise, but long term, did you just trade him for a season or two? Or is this like a full speed ahead? We're paying him and he's, our number two for a long time. That I just don't know right now. So to me, that would sort of change the way I feel about the trade. I think it's good for both sides. It clearly wasn't working in Pittsburgh and Dallas needs a number two. But I do worry though that in the long run, if they give him a long-term contract, it ends up being a dud for the Cowboys.
You look at it with, some of the more high profile cases leading Pittsburgh. Antonio Brown, as talented as he was in his prime, they move on from him. Up and down seasons, did win a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. And maybe that's the key here is can Dak Prescott, not saying he's Tom Brady, but he might have to have that cachet that said, this is my huddle. You're in my offense now, and you got to follow like Antonio Brown was able to do in those Buccaneer days. Can that be George Pickens in Dallas? We'll find out. But remember, they moved on from Chase Claypool. Had a great start to his career in Pittsburgh, and he's out of the league. So sometimes you see that from Pittsburgh. They move on from the guys at the right time.
Yeah.
I hope if you're a Cowboy backer like myself, you didn't get this at the wrong time on the tail end early on in a young career. You hope it doesn't fizzle out like it did for a guy like Chase Claypool. All right, Geoff, when we come back, I want to talk about the schedule release here and what you guys as players look forward to. That is next when you come back with us right here on the GM Show.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We continue the GM Shuffle presented by VSiN and DraftKings. The crown is yours. Dave Ross alongside Geoff Schwartz. And Geoff, breaking news, hot off the presses here on a Monday. The big news today, the NFL season will begin in earnest on Thursday, September 4th in the city of brotherly shove. This is the new tradition now of the NFL. You'll win the title. You get to host that Thursday opener. But it's not so much that Philly's going to be hosting now. We figured that, of course. It's that they're going to open up against their arch enemy down there in Dallas. And the Cowboys, that big divisional game, is going to be week one. Go back to last year when the Chiefs were having theirs. Even 2 years ago, they had the Lions coming in, obviously out of conference. And then last year, they had a rematch of the AFC title game from a year ago with the Chiefs against the Ravens. But this is different. This is a divisional game, week one to kick it off. Cowboys, by the way, already 7-point underdogs in that opening line here in May before we ever get to September. Do you like that, Geoff? That you're going to say, all right, let's kick off the season with a bang. Dallas and Philadelphia, game number one on a Thursday night.
So I'm looking through the past week one games. They had Packers, Bears, week one.
Yep.
But that was not a Super Bowl champion game. I don't know why that was actually done that way. Interesting, because other ones are all like Super Bowl champions playing, in that game. And then not many other division games, buddy. Giants Cowboys 2012. Again, that was a game off of a Giants Super Bowl there. Look, I think it's fun to start the season with a little bit of juice. Now, obviously, any way you cut it, people would watch week one and the opening game. So I'm kind of curious why they went division game, especially one where we obviously both these teams, I think, are fighting for the playoffs. They're fighting for different levels of the playoffs, obviously. I don't know if it's an advantage for either team to play this game early. I would think probably advantage to the Eagles, right? Cowboys, new staff. But then again, Eagles have new coordinators, right? So maybe that gives an advantage to the Cowboys there. So a very fun game. I'll tell you what, Dave, I've said this for years now. the NFL should release like 10 games a day for like 90 days in a row. Can you imagine the fervor we'd have? They just release like a week 7 game, a week 10 game, week 11 game. We know who everyone is playing. We don't know the time and the day yet. And the NFL makes this an entire a week thing. They go on national television shows and announce one game at a time. It's crazy how much attention and love we pay toward schedule release.
It is stunning. The NFL is king. They did it again here on a Monday. It usurps the NHL playoffs. It usurps the NBA playoffs. Major League Baseball, obviously. And then this becomes all the talk. To your point, we know that the full schedule release is going to come out here on Wednesday, but I like the drip like you're talking about. That would be much more suspenseful. As players, Geoff, is there something you're looking for in that schedule? Does it really matter? You're like, man, I got to suit up 17 of these things anyway.
No, so the things that players look for, very easy. So number one's the bye week. When's the bye week? The bye week is important. I know that you guys might think we want just to have a week off. I mean, don't you love a week off from work? It's kind of nice. Especially when they pay you for that week. Actually, we don't get paid by week, so maybe not. Nonetheless, we get paid for the games we play. So we you get paid every 2 weeks. You get paid for bye week, but essentially you just get paid for the 17 games you play. Nonetheless, the bye week is important for a physical reset, but for a mental reset, right? Like you go to training camp, let's just round it to August 1st, okay? And then you have the whole entire preseason and training camp. You get the regular season starts, and you go, let's say, to mid-November or early November. Like that's a good solid portion of football. It's a long bit of football. And that week away from ball, and it's a mandatory week now. It used to be they would just give you like Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. You'd practice Wednesday, Thursday. It's now most teams, I think it's 4 days mandatory off. Most teams just say on Monday, see you on next Monday, essentially, right? It's just a mental reset away from football. That's all it is. And I've found in my career that when you come back from bye, you're really happy to be back. You're happy to get back in the swing of things. You're ready to play some more ball. And you just feel like we took a mental break for a week. And so I always like to buy middle of the season, ideally like right smack in the middle, right? Week 8, 9, 10, 11, somewhere around there. A perfect way to break up the season. So everyone looks for bye week first, okay? Secondly, I think you look for Thursday night games. Sort of the same idea where it's a short week, but then that weekend is off. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're off after a Thursday game. And I like those most often earlier in the season when you're not beat up, right? Shorter week, not beat up. My brother, who played for 9 years, he liked at the end of the season because you didn't practice all week. And he liked the idea of just basically not doing anything all week and then playing and felt that helped your body recover a little bit faster. So those are things that we look for first. And I think it's kind of a combination of a bunch of other things. One is sort of national TV games, because those are typically the games that don't matter more, but you're playing the better teams and your friends and family get to watch you play. So those are important games. Then it becomes personal, right? Like rivalry games, like the team that cuts you. What do you play the team that cuts you, or with the team that traded you, the team that spurned you in the draft? So those I think are what players look for. And then I think weather stuff, right? Like I grew up in Los Angeles, went to school at Oregon. It snowed, let's just say it rained every day. It snowed, I don't know, once in 3 years. So I looked for snow games. Like, are we playing Green Bay in December? Are we playing Chicago late in the year? Philly, Washington, Pittsburgh? Because I wanted to play in those snow games. I think a lot of people don't want the weather, and so they look at the back half of the schedule to see the weather opportunities. And then I think as an analyst, you're just looking for our dome teams playing outside in November, December. What quarterbacks are you playing? To me, it's not about record last season. It's about the quarterbacks you're playing this season. So I'm looking forward to watching and seeing what happens on Wednesday with all these.
To your point about the last point there about when and where you're playing, like Miami, when are they going to Buffalo? What month are they going to cold weather cities? We know certain teams that are affected by some of those matchmaking that the NFL is going to put out. We also mentioned how the NFL is the king, and they've taken it over with the NFL draft, made it as much of a 365 league as they possibly can. They're also the foreign games now. Now we're going into Brazil back-to-back years. It's going to be the Friday game after that Thursday Cowboy-Eagle opener. You're going to have the Chiefs and the Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil, rather. And then you've got the two international games that you're going back to London, which has become a thing as well. You got the Berlin, Germany game where the Colts are going to be playing there as well. So I look at these things, Spain with the Dolphins. how much as a player, you get in that routine, as you mentioned, and when the bye week comes, now you've got international travel. I know it's not horse and buggy. I know we're going and, level A accommodations wherever you go when you're in the NFL, but do players want this? Do they want to go to Berlin? Do they want to go to London? Do they want to go to Brazil? Like, I wonder how much that's changing the way they get into that week-to-week routine.
Well, I think it depends on how you do it, because some teams just go like Friday to play Sunday. Some teams go on Monday and you get the whole week. I would love to go Monday to Berlin and spend a week there. That seems like a fun time. You're still practicing, obviously. The travel, though, like you mentioned it. Look, we fly private, not private. We fly on a commercial plane, but the private flight, the rest of recovery techniques that we all use. I mean, they get our bodies back pretty quickly. So the travel to me is not a big. It's just a matter of how long are you there for, and then obviously how was your turnaround. Sometimes we're seeing that it used to be by after a London game. Teams are turning that down now. They're saying no, we'd rather just come. It's the same flight for flying from essentially East Coast, West Coast, and back. Right, going from East Coast to London. It's an hour longer maybe, but you do it all the time. So that's part of it as well. Now the week one game, they're rumored Chiefs Chargers in Brazil. I think that's what the rumor is.
For the Friday.
That's Friday. So you get back Saturday and you rest Sunday and you get back to it Monday. I mean, it's not a big deal that early in the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is interesting with the influx of the international games. And I don't want to say if that is in fact what we're going to get on that Friday game, and that's as high profile as it gets. Last year, by the way, it was the Eagles and Packers. Like, think about that. You kicked off the Saquon experience, and lo and behold, they end up winning the Super Bowl. So I guess there's no correlation, or maybe you say it's 1-1. You go to Brazil now, all of a sudden, then you win the Super Bowl like the Eagles did here. So I know the field was an issue over there. I've heard that, Geoff, too, and I'm sure as a lineman.
That's the problem in these places. Like the field, like there was a game canceled in Mexico a few years back. The Chiefs were going to go to Mexico. That is a big concern, the field, because look, I would always want to play in grass. I think these fields tend to be grass overseas because they play in the soccer stadiums that might be turf, might be grass, but it's hard, man, when like the grass isn't grown there for the sport. The weather is different time of year. That is a big concern. The grass needs to be good. You have to play good field conditions. It's not fair to not do that.
You lose and look, this is going to happen, and I'm not going to say it's correlated to a bad field, but if you did happen to lose a star player in one of these games on a bad field, the outcry, Geoff. Why are we playing all these money grab games overseas, right? That's what the rallying cry would be.
Absolutely, and they would have the right to say that, in my opinion. I'll just say this now. Every stadium should have grass, unless you're in you're in a dome, like Minnesota. Maybe Seattle rains so much. Like all these outdoor stadiums transitioning to turf, in my opinion, is bad for the body. It's bad for the players. Like, why do you need turf in Nashville, Tennessee? Like, I think there's still grass, but the new stadium's going to be turf. Like, it's in the South. You don't need turf in the South. It drives me crazy with college baseball, by the way, random tangent. Like, you watch these games and they play on a turf field. Why do you have a turf field in the South? But grass grows fine. I live in Charlotte. It grows fine all season, all year. I promise you. Even when it rains, it still works just fine. So football should be on grass, man. I'm a strong proponent of this. It should be outside. The Browns are talking about a new stadium, dome stadium. Why? Why would you take that advantage away from you playing a cold weather game? Like that's the importance, I think, of having these home playoff games. You get a bad weather game, you're used to it. A warm team comes in, they're not used to it. Like that feels like an advantage. I get it. It's not the fan experience is not great in the snow. I get all that. I understand. But I like the weather, man. I think that playing outside on grass is the way to play football.
Cleveland Browns in a dome stadium. That's going to happen. That sounds terrible. Right. So just not football. And by the way, the Vikings went to 4 Super Bowls when they played outside. They got the Metrodome back then. They've never gone back since. And then the Lions, who have played obviously in a dome, have never even been to a Super Bowl. So not Saints have won one. We get that. But I'm just saying, some of those cold weather cities, maybe that's a curse that they should be playing outdoors. And right now they're all playing in domes. Speaking of the Browns, when we come back, Geoff, I think there's rather significant news there that didn't involve Shedeur Sanders, and maybe a little news that does involve Shedeur. I'll get to all of that when we come back next year on the GM Shuffle.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We are back on the GM Shuffle. Dave Ross and Geoff Schwartz here, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. And Geoff, I don't think we're allowed by law to do this show without doing more Cleveland Browns talk each and every week. I feel like they just dominated the offseason with the Shedeur Sanders and the draft. But this news I really did think was significant. Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on it. We heard from the GM, Andrew Berry, talking about Nick Chubb, and that it's unlikely that Nick Chubb returns to Cleveland here. And obviously, you draft Junkins out of Ohio State here early in this NFL draft before you take Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. The injury was gruesome. He did not look like the same guy a year ago coming back last year from that gruesome injury 2 years ago. Man, this guy felt like he was destined for Canton, Ohio one day. And now you wonder, is it over? And that's why you never know with some of these injuries how guys are going to respond. But what'd you make of that news that Andrew Berry says it's unlikely that we see Nick Chubb in Cleveland again?
I think the Browns, for whatever you think about the Deshaun Watson deal, I think outside that are pretty analytically driven, right? And they have decided, and they know that running backs off injuries like this, it's tough, man. It's a tough road back. And, should our resources be allocated to paying even $2 million, $3 million to Nick Chubb? We drafted a running back. We have an offense that we feel comfortable with multiple different options at running back. And I think they just want to roll with that, Dave. Like, it's just not worth it to them to invest. Now, they might get to training camp and realize, oh boy, we need someone else. Chubb's still available. But I think right now he probably is asking price they don't want to meet, and they'd rather roll. It's Quinshaw Junkins. Ford last year was good when he got, and they drafted Dylan Sampson too from Tennessee. So right. They're set at running back. They don't want to allocate any dollars left to that. So I think it makes sense from that perspective of like, we're just not putting any more money at this position. We've done what we had to do in the draft, and it's just not, we're just not rolling with Chubb anymore. And that's the hard part about the running back position. It's why, to me, you can almost never bet running back overs. You just can't bet their overs in a given year. They get hurt too much.
That's the sad reality. It does have kind of Todd Gurley vibes. Looked like he was going to go to the Hall of Fame early on in his career. Leg injury, never the same guy, even after the second contract. And it's why, like the Saquon Barkley story from a year ago, Geoff, that's the outlier, right? He was kind of banged up, always had the quad injuries in New York, comes over to the Eagles and he, runs for 2,000 yards. It looks like a completely different guy, or the guy the Giants always thought they're going to get in Saquon. You normally don't see that. And yet we did see resurgences in older running backs like a Josh Jacobs, new career now in Green Bay, really good start there. Is this just one of those things where Chubb, like Gurley, is the other side of that equation, and that what we're seeing with some of these older running backs, even the King, Derrick Henry in Baltimore, that's normally not the norm?
It's not the norm, but also, look, I mean, it's just in certain situations, guys with a couple more years of rest and recovery can come back. And of course, what matters a lot too is the situation you're in, right? You come back to a situation where you good offensive line, good quarterback, good scheme, you're able to work it out. If you're a primary running back sometimes, and you're in a bad offensive line, bad scheme, you might have those concerns about productivity.
The lead story in Cleveland is sadly not Nick Chubb, possibly not coming back to the team. It is about Shedeur Sanders and what number he's wearing here at rookie camps and mini camps as we get started here. And chosen the number 12. Now, there's no number at Cleveland for pretty much any quarterback. Maybe you could say Brian Sipe, where you go, I don't know about that number. It's a hallowed number. Quarterback position has been a rough one through the decades in Cleveland. Geoff, people are making the correlation that by choosing 12, he drops all the way to the 5th round. Tom Brady was a 6th round pick back in the day from Michigan. He and Tom are very close. Dion and Tom are very close. That maybe it's an homage to Brady and Cleveland, now you're going to get a new number 12 here. Anything to read in at all? Or is it, man, it's just a jersey number?
I mean, look, it's certainly possible that he did this in this way, but I would imagine it's just a number,
Yeah.
more than anything else. And I think that if that motivates him to be better, and motivates him to keep his head down and just work, I think the work's not the problem with Sanders at all. I just think that, of course, we're talking about many different things, but the reason why he dropped. I will say though, and this is, I think, a small glance into the teams, not just the Browns, obviously they drafted him, but teams' hesitancy about drafting Sanders. I mean, you go one day of rookie minicamp, and the first question Stefanski's asked the head coach of the Browns is, why was Sanders behind Dylan Gabriel in the reps? And he's like, I don't know, what am I going to tell you? We drafted Gabriel ahead. I'm putting words in his mouth. He didn't say all this, but they drafted Gabriel ahead of Sanders. He's going to get the reps to start. Those are the distractions. Those are the things that I think bother teams when it comes to drafting backup quarterbacks. And look, Sanders ends up being great. The Browns won't care about it. But for right now, they're going to keep getting those questions about reps and who's ahead, who's not, who looked good in practice, who doesn't look good in practice. But I will say, though, this gives me an opportunity to talk about one of my favorite things about rookie minicamp. I can't get enough of rookie quarterback throwing a football to another rookie quarterback on air, but it's in slow motion. Oh my dude, sign me up for those. Football's back, buddy. Slow motion videos of players catching footballs on air. I'm in.
I thought the funniest one for a non-rookie was a couple years ago when Tyreek Hill went to the Dolphins and they showed Tua throwing footballs to Tyreek. I mean, they did have a good relationship there. And they did the same thing. It's like, what is this? Is this a movie? Is this Any Given Sunday? And Oliver Stone is going to slow this stuff down and make it, it is amazing what we do and how excited we get as a society about slow motion footballs. Absolutely love that take, Geoff. By the way, if you maybe should try some Huel out there in Cleveland, because I try it. I use it with my workouts. It's absolutely fantastic. You don't even need to work out to use it. It's going to give you a little bit of that boost that I need to get me through my shows here at VSiN and certainly also in the GM Shuffle. So again, you can use a code here when you go to Huel.com, and when you use the code SHUFFLE here for GM Shuffle, you're going to get 15% off your first order and a free gift. So check it out today. And again, wouldn't plug it if I'm not using it myself at Huel.com. Speaking of kind of older players coming back into the NFL with new teams, and I'm always curious when you look at a guy like Dre Greenlaw, and we saw the success he had obviously in San Francisco, and now the Broncos, they're going to kick the tires on a guy like Dre. Now, he had a quad injury in April. He's doing well. That's what we have in quotes right now. Expected to be a full participant in training camp, according to a guy like Sean Payton. And another veteran out there in Jalen Smith. And as a Cowboy backer, you remember him coming out of Notre Dame and had the bad knee and missed all of his rookie year. And then he looked great until he got injured again. And the Raiders are going to kick the tires here on Jalen Smith out in the desert. When you see these aging veteran linebackers, Geoff, what do you think a guy like Sean Payton is looking for in a guy like Dre Greenlaw? I don't think we can expect glory days in San Francisco. What is he trying to get out of a guy like Dre?
Yeah. I think they're just quite simply hoping that a player is healthy, can contribute to some level. They sign these guys after the draft because they realize they have deficiencies on their roster and they want to, shore those up. And if again, like, you're not thinking you're getting a lot from him, but something would be nice, right? Like, there's no downside in signing these veterans. They know how to play ball. You're often looking for some leadership in those positions. If you get, a little bit of good football in it, it's worth it. So it's not to often start, but it's to be a mentor. It's to get some good quality reps in if you're a veteran. So it does make sense, I think, when these guys get added to a roster for those reasons.
I'm rooting for a guy like Jalen Smith out here in the desert, obviously, but, high character guy, and certainly like to see Dre Greenlaw still be able to participate here and help out the Broncos going forward. Speaking of reps, we're seeing that Travis Hunter is going to see reps on defense. in the upcoming OTAs as organized team events here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Liam Cohen, the new head coach, said Hunter will be able and was able to get a feel for what Jacksonville wants to do defensively. What do you make of that? Because we've talked a little bit about it. Can he play both ways here? You need him as a wide receiver, but when he's getting looks, this feels like a promise that, hey, if I draft you, we're going to give you the opportunity. Doesn't mean he's going to be a two-way player necessarily, but is there anything to read into that he will at OTAs be taking some defensive reps?
I will go on record again. I think it's dumb. I don't understand it. I love the enthusiasm of doing both. Now, I was wrong about it in college, so maybe I'll have to eat crow again here. But how do you just mentally prepare to play two positions at that level? I mean, again, it's why it's not been done. I understand that Dion did it 1 year. I think he had like 300 yards receiving.
Yep.
Is that what you're signing up for? Is 300 yards receiving from Travis Hunter and full-time corner? I guess. Sign me up for that. But like, if you made him a promise, I mean, so what? You drafted him now. He's got nowhere to go. He's not going anywhere. I guess it's not good faith to go back on a promise, but I feel like some point someone's got to tell him, like, hey, but you can't do this. Now, can you play corner full-time and play some wide receiver? Yes. And maybe quite simply, they're just trying to figure it out. We don't know what we want from him to do yet. But I will say this. If you trade up for him and give up a first-round pick next season, you better have a plan for him. The plan can't be, let's just figure it out. So I'm curious to see what Jacksonville does here. Again, I don't think you can do both the level he wants to do both. And then you diminish either one of them because you play too much. So I'm a little bit concerned that he's going to do too much as a rookie. I don't quite like it.
I just wonder. Andrew Berry will never admit this as the GM. Remember, he was talking about this is Shohei Ohtani of football. And then when you make that deal, like you wouldn't trade away the Shohei Ohtani of football if you really thought he was going to be the Shohei Ohtani pitcher for the Cleveland number 2, right? You don't make that move, and maybe this is a headache you don't have to worry about.
And what's funny about the Ohtani thing is he actually doesn't even pitch right now. Like he's been a hitter for a year and 2 months straight, and he's hitting bombs. Like, I mean, the Dodgers don't even need him to pitch, quite honestly. I mean, I'm sure he'll pitch again at some point. But even like Babe Ruth did both, and eventually they're like, you're done pitching, right?
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We are back on the GM Shuffle. Dave Ross, Geoff Schwartz here on DraftKings and VSiN. And let's have a little bit of fun here because the numbers are already up here on DraftKings where you look at quarterbacks and some props associated with it. And this always gets down to, obviously, injury is the first thing for any quarterback. If you're betting any over on yards and or touchdowns, you want to root for good health first and foremost. But without taking into the injury concern, a guy like Josh Allen, who's now the reigning defending MVP, whether or not we thought he should have been the MVP or not, that's another discussion for another day. They're setting the yards number at 3,800 and a hook. Could you imagine if it landed on 3,800, by the way? And the touchdowns, we're looking at 27 and a half touchdowns, just a little bit to the under at minus $1.15. For Buffalo to get to where they have not been able to get to, and that is a Super Bowl, would you want these numbers to be, you would say, the over. That's what I want, the over. I've got to bet the over if the bill is going to be as good as we want. Is that almost counterintuitive that if the running game is good, if James Cook is as good as he was, that Josh doesn't have to be Superman? How would you look at that in kind of correlating their success with some of these numbers?
So starting in 2020, Josh Allen threw for, I'm running around a little bit, 4,500, 4,400, 4,300, 4,300. And the last year, 37-31. And last year, and it's a good point you made, they were a little more run dominant, right? They wanted to run the football a little bit more, be more of a balanced offense. It helps out in the postseason to have that balance between what you want to be. Also, by the way, eliminate some of the Josh Allen scrambles, right? Opportunities to get hit, opportunities to have weird turnovers happen because Josh Allen's doing a little bit too much. And also, too, when they have big leads, they run the football. They often had times last season when they had big leads in games and ran the football. So My general thought for a lot of these will always be under. I'm an under player that in these player props. I think based off of last season, you would think the under would be a play to make. But the thing is, they have added wide receiver talent, right, to the roster. Oh, maybe they do throw the ball a little bit more. But I do think that just schematically how they want to play, I think they would love for Josh Allen to be under this number. That means they probably ran the ball pretty well and were up in a bunch of games.
I mean, do you think they're still looking back for like the 13 seconds from years back in Kansas City? And then last year, the fourth and one, did he get it? And it doesn't get, I mean, they are so close, Geoff, in these heartbreaking fashions with Josh Allen and not being able to get over that hump. I just wonder this year, if they're able to do it, what that year looks like for the reigning defending MVP.
But the regular season doesn't matter for them. They beat them in the regular season every season. It's
right.
And to me, there's nothing that they do in the regular season that makes them not ready to play in the postseason. I mean, they've lost those postseason games by 3, by 6, by 3. I mean, they're not like getting blown out in those games. They just haven't been able to get over the hurdle playing teams in the postseason. So I think nothing they do offensively. Now, defensively, they have to rush the passer better against Kansas City. Like, that's been a chronic problem of theirs. I mean, they just don't get home on Patrick Mahomes. Now, they've been hurt in a couple of those games and whatnot, so it's been a little bit tougher. But no, in the regular season, they're fine against Kansas City. So, but again, I think ideally, if Josh Allen were right around that number, 3,800, you'd be pretty pleased about the season they had.
We saw the season ending for the Ravens last year in Buffalo, ironically. And Lamar Jackson has won the MVP twice. I thought he was going to win it a third time. He didn't. You look at his numbers this year coming in, and this is interesting to me. His passing yards number, look how much lower it is than Josh Allen's. It's down to 3,450, even money, $1.10 either way. But the passing touchdowns are one more than Josh Allen at 28.5. I mean, last year, statistically, that's one of the best years you're ever going to see any quarterback put up, Geoff. And I feel like, are they expecting that he does not throw and he's not as prolific as he looked like last year? Do we still have those questions about Lamar Jackson in the pocket?
What did you say the number was?
3,450. Doesn't that feel low?
So I'm just looking at, so in 2021, he played only 12 games, but averaged 240 yards passing per game. That would be over 4,000 yards in a 17-game season. 2022, didn't play as well, got hurt. He averaged only 186 yards a game. The last 2 years, he's played 16 and 17 games. He threw for 36, almost 3,700, and last year, nearly 4,200. I mean, maybe this is like we think he might get hurt and or miss the last game of the season because the Ravens are resting everyone type of idea. Because if you look at the way he's played, and you would think the over would be certainly playable here.
Totally. To me, it screams over, especially after what he did a year ago. But good point that, again, remember that for some of these elite teams and quarterbacks, injury obviously is always a factor, but maybe just sitting out a game and you only get 16 of them. How about Joey B in Cincinnati? He won Comeback Player of the Year award. Do you think he even cares about winning that award? By the way, Geoff, 4,150 is the number here for 4,150 for his passing yards. So, I mean, we understand why. And the touchdowns are 33.5. I don't know how you play those overs. Not saying you won't hit them. I just don't know how you play those high numbers.
What number for you said 4,100?
43.
43.
No, 4,150. 4,150.
I mean, he threw for nearly 5,000 yards last season. Are we just think he's coming back down? Like, I think are we thinking that the defense is better this season, so Joe Burrow is not required to throw as much?
Or do they want any balance, Geoff, with their offense? Do they really try to run the ball this year?
He's been, in the 3 years he started the entire season, he's been well over this number. 4,600, 4,500, nearly 5,000 last season. This is one I would go over with. I think this is what they are offensively now. They're a pass first team. Their defense might be better, but I'm not quite sold this season. It's quite there yet. This would be an over for me. The comeback player of the year thing, he's won comeback player of the year twice now, which in 5 years, which is a lot. So we come back here twice in 5 seasons. I hope he stays healthy this year.
That's the whole key there, right? He's getting banged up when they throw it as much as he has. So you get those comeback player of the year awards traditionally because you've been injured the year before. How about this in context with these elite quarterbacks? Patrick Mahomes, his number is set at 4,050 and a half.
Yeah.
And by the way, minus $1.10 either way. And if you want to go touchdowns, you're going to be looking for Mahomes 27 and a half, juiced either way at $1.10. It feels like that's high. Could we see he reverts back to the gunslinger that we saw in the Tyreek Hill days? I don't know if he still has the offensive weapons or the line, to be honest, to be able to get over 4,000 yards pretty easily.
So I'm looking at his numbers, last 2 years, right? 41.83 and 39.28. Now, obviously, one thing to factor in here is the Chiefs often don't play week 17 or week 18. So he's only playing 16 games. So just keep that in the back of your mind. They have a tough schedule this year. They always do. So look, man, with everyone healthy, with Rashee Rice healthy, with Worthy healthy, with Hollywood Brown healthy, they drafted a wide receiver. Kelsey, I think, is going to be more of a piece that's there, but I just can't imagine they rely on him quite the same as they used to, just his age and whatnot. I think offensive line's going to be fine. I think this is a season where they are going to especially try to establish a deep pass. And where that ends up being a ton of yards, I don't know, but I think ideally the Chiefs would like if Mahomes threw the ball for more yards this season.
We just went through, for the majority of this segment, 4 elite quarterbacks, all in the AFC. Obviously, in the reigning defending MVP, Josh Allen, former 2-time MVP in Lamar Jackson, a guy who could be in the MVP conversation was a year ago, 2-time comeback player of the year in Joe Burrow, and then Patrick Mahomes, Mr. Everything. We haven't even mentioned the reigning defendings in Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts, who was the Super Bowl MVP. And his number is set at 3,200 and a half, even money minus $1.10, either way. And then you want to go to the touchdown prop, 19 and a half. It is juiced to the over $1.35. But Geoff, feels like a slap in the face to Jalen Hurts.
Do you know he threw 4 last season? Only played 15 games, but do you know what it was last year?
What do you have?
It was under 3,000 yards. It was 29.03, under 200 yards a game. So if you just do the math on what that would be like over, a 17 game season, it comes out to 32.90. So I think that they look at this offense and just think like, we're going to be up in games. We have a running attack. We don't think Hurts is the offense essentially. I wouldn't go over. I'll tell you that. I think that I would look to under more than anything else.
I wonder with Kellen Moore exiting stage left for New Orleans. We saw what happened a couple years ago. They got to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, and they lost their coordinator, Shane Steichen left. They did struggle that next year, right, with the new change in coordinators. I wonder what that's going to look like this year without Kellen Moore there as well. One other quarterback I'll be curious to get your thoughts on is Sam Darnold, now that he's moved on from Minnesota in that great system with KOC. And now he's going to be in Seattle, and we all are assuming he's going to be the guy. When you look at Sutton Sam, 3,500 and a hook, by the way. So you got to get 3,501 to cash that over right there. And by the way, great regular season for the last week and 20 and a half for the touchdowns. Does he continue what he started in Minnesota last year?
Unders, just across the board for Darnold. Just smash all the unders. I just don't buy it. Think about last season, right? Minnesota, good offensive line. Cam Robinson got hurt. Not Cam Robinson. Derek Carr got hurt. Cam Robinson came in. Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, running backs, Kevin O'Connell. Seattle doesn't have those. As simply put, like it was a perfect a defense last season that was really good, and now you're playing outside in bad weather for half of your games at home. I'm just out on Darnold. We love redemption stories in the NFL, and they certainly are fun. But this to me was a 1-year redemption story. I mean, he's Cooper Kupp thrown to, who is older now and a little bit doesn't move as well. MVS, we know JSN is there. They drafted Horton, who I like from Colorado State. But the offensive line, I like Gray's able to draft him, but still some question marks. I think as a totality, as a unit, I just Allen Darnold. Give me all the unders.
Can't believe we did that segment. Didn't talk about Dak Prescott. Geoff, great stuff as always, my friend. We'll do it again next week right here on the GM Shuffle.